All right, the College Football Playoff Committee released its findings tonight, and Dean and Ryan are going to talk about it. We're doing it live, and you're going to see our reaction to it. We're already through the beginning here. My expectation, Ryan, is that Georgia's going to either be 2 or 3. I'd be surprised if they were 3. I think they'd be getting it wrong if they were 3, but we've seen the College Football Playoff get it wrong before.
Yeah, I think they're going to be the two. If they're not the two, I agree with you. I don't see them slipping past number three. And the reason why they'll
No way.
be number two is because they have two ranked wins, right? And
Correct.
one top five, number one overall road win, right? So I think that they have the best win in college football.
Well,
And that's
I think Texas is better than Penn State because I am aware that Texas, unlike Penn State, is not a complete
yeah.
fraud for sure. So
And I
there's
think
that.
that obviously Oregon beating Ohio State and being undefeated, there's no question that Oregon should be the one here. But three will be Ohio State, I think. I think four will probably be. I could see it not being Miami. I could see just maybe a strength of record type of thing. They look at it, but it
I
looks
don't
like
just
Texas
like
A&M's
I'm just seeing what
14 and
ESPN's doing here. I would really not do it this way with the small graphic. They got
I don't
SMU
like it
as the
either. I had to
13 and
squint.
Texas A&M as the 14. Just do the rankings and then put the like. I know everybody really feels like I understand what they are doing right now. I understand that, but I think people watching this show don't need to see all this. Boise at 12. I mean, if you are that's up to you to sort of educate yourself. That's where I'm at with a lot of this stuff right now, Ryan. I'm tired of people not educating themselves about stuff. I did a whole video on this not that long ago. These should be larger. These should be larger. This is so stupid because this is not how it's going to be. Okay, go ahead. Boise's at the 12. In Alabama at the 11.
I think they're
Alabama's
just
still got
doing
a
it in
shot
this
at this
bracket
thing.
format so we see like this is
What's
what it
that?
would look like. I think they're just doing it in this bracket format
Yeah,
so
I
they're just
understand why they're
saying this is
doing
what it
it.
would look like.
I understand why they're doing it, but they can't tell us who the conference champions are going to be right now. There's just
No, I'm not surprised by what we're seeing so far from 12 to 14 though. Alabama 11. I'm not surprised by that.
well, listen. I think people are the dirt was thrown on their grave a little early. Obviously, LSU or Alabama, they're out this week, and
Yeah, yeah.
that's just
That's the semifinal or that's a playoff berth game, right?
total
Assuming that they
elimination game.
take care of business.
Yeah, I mean it's a total elimination
Yeah,
game, and we're just going to see how it goes. Like there were some curious things here too. I mean, you got Colorado at 20. I mean, Clemson. Look,
that's a fall far.
that's a long way down.
Notre
That's a
Dame at
long way
10.
down. Notre Dame at 10. I mean, that's a long way down. I don't know. I mean, they haven't beaten anybody, and they've gotten two pretty bad beatings along the way. They're fortunate they're ranked right now. To be honest with you, I think.
Clemson.
Yeah, I mean, like we're talking. I mean, the whole point of our relationship with our audience is to tell them the truth, and Clemson's got to play better in big moments, and like they've got 2 games left. They could lose both of them to Pitt and South Carolina. You know, it's time. BYU's the 9, but they correctly
I
point out
thought they
that
were gonna
BYU
maybe
would be.
slide BYU up there more.
What's that?
I thought they were gonna maybe put BYU a little bit higher.
I wouldn't want to play at BYU. I mean that
No,
with
no.
BYU. Let me just say this real quick, Ryan. With BYU as the 9, they have an ability to still get into this thing if they don't win the Big 12. I think they are the highest Big 12, so they're sort of penciled in. But I'm not sure if there's a scenario where BYU doesn't fall far enough to where they don't kind of get into this thing. Right now, Boise at the 12 would is not knocking anybody out because they're at 12. We'll see if that lasts. But I would not want to play a road game at BYU, and Indiana's
No,
your
that'd be a
8.
tough one. That'd be a tough one. They could whether they win the Big 12 or end up as a what 5 to 8 seed. I think it's less likely that they end up as a 5 to 8 seed. It's
Yeah, I
not
just
impossible,
you're
but
correct. I mean,
but
the
I don't think
problem
that would happen.
the section the 5 to 8 problem, as people may or may not realize, this is why ESPN is going through it this way, but we've
Oh,
explained a lot of
Indiana.
this. We've explained a lot of this stuff to y'all already. The 5 to 8 is going to the home playoff games. That's going to get cannibalized by the Big Ten non-champion, the team that plays in it and doesn't win. Same thing for the SEC. That's going to eat up 2 spots. There was this notion that the ACC might eat up a spot, but Clemson then did what they did this weekend. So I just, you know, I don't, there's not going to be a lot of spots for other people.
I see what you're saying. They should not be presenting it this way.
They should not be presenting
They
it
should
this
not be
way.
presenting it this way.
Just freaking come down the line and tell us
Yeah,
what the rankings
just
are.
show us 1 through
Just
12.
show
Just
us one
show
through
us the
10. I mean, I think ESPN does a really good job with a lot of stuff. This is not a
they've
good
got it on
job
the
right
left tiny, but
now. Tennessee is your 7, which,
Tennessee's the 7. What? That's the same as the AP poll starting there.
yeah, I think we're going to get the AP poll from here on out.
I think that we might too because it was kind of right. I think Penn State is obviously going to be the 6 right here, and then it's going to be between Miami and Texas for those next 2 spots. But
Well, I'd have Texas higher than Miami, but that's me.
I would too, and I think that the committee might have that as well.
I
I don't think it's going to matter that Miami is undefeated. I think if you watch the games and say, hey, they were fooling around with Duke for a long time. Hey, they almost lost to Cal. Hey, they fooled around with, like
they got
every
some
game is
issues.
dramatic. It's fun to watch, but they're not trustworthy. And what happens when they play a team outside of the ACC?
I just don't, you know, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Miami, like these guys that really can score a lot. What's going to happen when they play against good teams? I don't know. Indiana, Tennessee, I would probably take Indiana.
Well, look, you almost have the reverse of it with Clemson. They started out with a Georgia, got thumped 34
Right,
to 3, 34 to
right.
6, and then they got into the conference schedule. They plowed through it for the most part, and then they do what they do and they slip up in one of those games. But it that's kind of how I think
Texas
it could
as
end
the
up being with
5,
Miami.
Ryan. Texas as the 5. Your kind of quick reaction. That means Miami and Ohio State
That
are in
means,
front of
yeah,
them.
that means Miami. Look, we were just talking about it was going to be one or the other. I would have Texas at 4 as well.
Yeah.
I get it, the undefeated, but I think we had to, unless the committee truly thinks Miami's a better team, we're going to go back to the same BS that existed with the 4, and it's probably going to still be a problem. Um, when you get to that 8-9 matchup, this is where those problems might be. Is hey, which team's better? Because it's going to be the home team.
Yeah.
And if we continue to rank these teams based off of their record more than who's the best team, then it's just such a gray area. So that's a problem you can run in with this version of the playoff. But I would have Texas over Miami as well. That's my instant
You
reaction to
could have
that.
Miami as the 3, by the way,
And Ohio State is the 4.
or even as the 2. Now, I would never.
That's
That
not
makes no
happening.
sense. I'm not aware. I'll throw it to you real quick. I'm
My
not
jaw is
aware.
going to drop
Hold,
if
hold, hold
Miami's
on
the
one
2.
second. Hold on. We're talking over
Sorry.
each other too much. I'll throw it to you right now. I'm not aware of who Miami's beaten that's good.
Their best win is Louisville.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, it
Yeah.
was a shootout. They controlled it at the end of the fourth quarter.
So Miami's your 4, and then the question only becomes: is Georgia the 3 or the 2? I don't think this. You know, the problem for Ohio State now and Oregon, I guess, only one of them gets a bye. So the notion of them being the 1, 2, or the 3 is irrelevant. that's the stupidity of this current thing, man. It's
Yeah.
that's the dumb part of this.
Uh, and it's interesting. I don't know if we're going to do this every single week, but you got to do it with this first one because we've been it's been proven every single year. The committee has been getting it wrong a lot in the initial rankings. I think that it's not. I think maybe it actually played out a little bit easier for them this time, and it looks like they're largely following the AP poll.
Georgia's the
Um,
3. Georgia's the 3.
okay, so they don't they. That's a middle finger to you, Carson Beck. That's a middle finger to you.
Oh boy,
Oh,
that is amazing.
I don't know about that. I thought that Georgia's multiple wins over top teams, their one loss being
I mean, hold on. This is so stupid. Okay. So I don't know which it is. I don't know if it's that it's the eye test or first of all, this doesn't matter, as I said a minute ago. But I gotta say, I don't know if this is about eye test or not. Georgia beat your number 5 team. Ohio State beat your 6, both on the road, and you got Ohio State higher. Can someone explain that to me? Because they played Oregon within a point, I guess? Is that what we're talking about now?
I guess. Um, I think it's probably looking at Georgia's body of work outside of these big matchups
The
is
win
what
over
they're doing.
Clemson?
I mean, I look, dude. I agree with you with the win over Clemson thing. I'm not trying to justify committee. I'm trying to understand their decision. I think that it's probably because of the way Georgia's played outside of the huge matchups. But Ohio State, it's the same thing as Texas. They blew a bunch of bad teams out, and then they got into a real game and they lost. And it's the same thing happened to Ohio State. Ohio State beat a Penn State team who's not that good.
I
Dude, I
just,
mean,
I just, listen, man. I totally think that it's, I think if you want to make the intellectual argument that Ohio State is better than Georgia, then rank Penn State in front of Texas. I mean, that's what I would say about this. There's it's really not that hard to just do that. It's not that difficult, and then there's nothing to talk about. But you're going to sit here and tell me that the guys that have the better win are not. I mean, like, because
are they
so
ignoring?
and then I guess the argument, Ryan. Let me just say this. I guess the argument is Georgia has the better win. Ohio State has the better loss, which means you're rewarding losses. I don't understand this. This is a bad precedent, and that's how I'm gonna send this story out and throw it to you.
I agree that your reasoning there with Penn State to me that's a good point. They, I don't know what they're watching. I mean, what about the Nebraska game for Ohio State? What about the first half of the what was it, Marshall game? I mean,
Yeah,
Georgia
I
had
don't
the
know.
Kentucky game and Georgia had the Florida game, I guess. I mean, the
So though,
Mississippi
but
State
again
game was
now,
never close. That
yeah,
the
but
final
listen. Here's the
score
thing.
isn't.
Here's my question now, they're going to need to be consistent,
They
which they
aren't. This is not. This is.
it's not. So here's the thing. If this is only eye test, then why are we giving automatic bids to conference champions? I mean, what are we doing right now?
I look, man. You know how I feel about all this.
I mean,
I
literally,
put,
my head is going to explode because this is so flawed in
it's
terms of
dumb. I would rather it be the BCS. I mean, for the purpose of there's a lot of good football at the end of the year and all that. That's great, and I'm fine with them expanding to 12 as long as it makes sense. And this doesn't make sense
right.
because there's a world where Colorado might get a bye.
Correct. Oh, totally. As the 20 seed, or well, they'd be like the
As
15 at that point.
at that point, they'd be like the 15th.
Well, they'd
team.
have to. That would involve Boise having to lose and all this stuff. So there's
No,
some,
it would have nothing to do with Boise.
no. The Big 12 does not immediately get a bye. It's the 4 highest ranked. But Colorado, if they won the Big 12, would almost
Do you
certainly
think
be
they're gonna
above
do?
Boise. So they
Yeah.
got some things to work out, or they would say on the field has to be worked out. But I have to say,
What if Boise got a bye?
they could. They could.
That's all you need to know.
They could. Well, we know right now that the ACC champion and the Big 12 or the Power 4 champion or the non-Power 5 champion, non-Power 4, God, will get a bye. And we know that those teams would not be favored over Ohio State, Georgia, Oregon, Texas, all these teams. I mean, like Georgia, Texas, and Tennessee, all ranked in the top 7. They can't all win the SEC. 2 of those teams will be I would assume, games. We're going to have to see what happens with Tennessee and Georgia. I mean, Georgia could lose its next 2 games and really be in serious peril here. But I got to say, in 2021, I wrote that, this is not what you wanted to see if you were Georgia and you were like going to lose a game or something like that. As it turns out, it didn't matter. But I'm not sure I understand I'm just not being intellectually honest here, and I don't have time to listen to, I got other stuff to do. I have, to run this business. There's other things. I have children. I just don't get it. Georgia beat Texas by 15 on the road. Ohio State beat Penn State by 7, a very good win. Ohio State lost by 1, so they lost by a play. Georgia lost by a play to Alabama on the road, both of them. I don't think there's anything to be ashamed of there, but it can't be that Ohio State's loss matters more than Georgia's win. I mean, I guess when they both have semi-adjacent wins and losses. I mean, Texas is a bit. I'm trying to understand this, and I can't. And it's just I am concerned that we're going back down the path of stupidity again, and it's concerning. I'll throw it to you for the end here.
Yeah, this happens
It does.
every first playoffs. We see something that doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't understand. I don't know what the reasoning is. There's just there's no real explanation for why Ohio State would be ranked ahead. Now it doesn't matter right now,
It
right?
doesn't matter
It
at
doesn't.
all.
And
Which
there's
is
not a
wrong.
world
Which is
where
wrong for
well,
Ohio State, and it's wrong for Georgia, and it's wrong for Oregon and Texas. It's wrong.
there's not there's likely not a world where there is a world, but what's probably not going to happen is Ohio State and Oregon being ranked ahead. That means Georgia lost the SEC championship pretty much. But I worry about that weekend too. How are they going to judge the losers of these conference championship games? Are they going to fall further in the rankings than they deserve for playing an extra game? I mean, what happens if Georgia loses to Texas? They get like blown out by Texas or something, and they kind of drop in the rankings over the next couple of weeks before that because they are not playing well and they're winning all these games by one possession. So Georgia drops to like 5 or 6. What happens if they lose to Texas in the SEC championship? Are they going to drop down to where they have a road game?
Yeah, I would be. I don't think so, but I would be concerned here that again. I would want to study this a little bit more. I'm not sure. I mean, Tennessee's best win is over who?
Alabama,
Right. So they've got their best win as at 7-1. Who is Penn State's best win?
Illinois.
Okay. Illinois is not ranked,
Yeah,
and
I
they're
mean,
in front of
exactly.
Penn State. I mean, I just don't like Penn
I
State
don't
should
get
not
why
be the
Penn State's
6.
ranked 6.
What's that?
I don't get why is Penn State ranked ahead of Indiana?
I don't necessarily know. I mean, I understand none of this matters. None of this matters. And we're saying that, but you know, shouldn't there be some reason involved here? I mean, listen, we both have 4-year degrees and beyond in some cases. Like, isn't logic allowed in these state cases? Like, are we only going on the eye test? If we're only going on the eye test, then forget the conference championship mandate and let's just roll on with the best teams. If you want to then say Ohio State's better than Georgia, the 2 and the 3, they play each other in the semifinals. Somebody has a different color uniform on than the other. That's not a huge deal. I would argue it because the same thing is involved there. But you are saying, oh well, it's the best looking team, and you could certainly make the argument that Ohio State has looked better if you don't watch the Nebraska game at all. And there's some other moments in Ohio State's season. If it's like I just don't understand this. And listen, if I'm Greg Sankey right now, I am very concerned about this. Like I am one of the reasons why this occurred. And I'm looking at the output here and I'm like, this logic doesn't make a lot of sense.
How do you feel about Alabama's spot?
I mean, they've got a loss to someone who's not ranked. So there's
and a
that.
road loss to Tennessee.
And then a loss to Tennessee. I mean, I think
they've also not been passing the eye test in a lot of other games too.
No, they have not.
It's one of those things where the brand is uplifting them a little bit. And I think it's the same case with Penn State for whatever reason.
Look, Penn State's not the number 6 team in the country.
I would have them around the 10 mark. Maybe
I would not put them, I don't think, behind BYU, but I would not have them in front of undefeated Indiana and definitely not in front of Tennessee. But that's me. And, who would you pick? Would you pick Alabama or Penn State? I think that would be a coin flip, probably. Maybe you'd favor Alabama by maybe a field goal or fewer. I don't know, man. I can't get over how if Georgia has a win over number 5 and Ohio State has a win over number 6, and that's basically where we're at here. Ohio State's only loss is to Oregon. That's the only other game they played. Then
it does. It shows that they value Ohio State's loss to Oregon higher than Georgia's loss to Alabama. That's what it is. I mean, at this point, Alabama's a 2-loss team and Oregon's an undefeated team. I think that's what they're getting at there.
Yeah. I don't know.
I understand it. I just don't agree with it.
Yeah, I think this just on the surface. I'm not sure I get it, but at the end of the day, the good news is you're talking about a 12 team and not a 4 team. But at least with the 4, well, allegedly you were going with a with the, I don't even know what the rules were with then. I mean, it was eye test, non eye test. I mean, conference champion didn't matter when
It did.
Georgia
It was
didn't win
never.
it. You
Yeah,
know,
it was all over the
it was all
place.
over the place,
It was
and
never consistent. Well, we had like 10 different, either 9 or 10 four-team playoffs over the course of that decade, and it felt like every single year the logic was a little bit different in ranking them, and they straight up got it wrong a few times. I thought they got it wrong last year. I thought that you could argue they got it wrong the year before as well. They definitely got it wrong the first time they did it back in 2014. Um, they
I mean, Georgia has the number one schedule in the country according to. I'm assuming this is a college football playoff. They have the number one. They're the only team that is in the top 10 that's ranked in the top 12 here. Alabama's at 11
for strength of schedule.
for
What's the
strength of
strength of
schedule,
record?
and
I'd
yet
love to see the strength of record.
I'm not sure. I think it just either needs to be, hey, look, we're doing eye test, or hey, look, you automatically qualify with these things, and that's what Greg Sankey and the Southeastern Conference are going to do here soon. I'm not trying. I'm like, my head isn't exploding, but I'm just saying this is not a great start. This is a concerning start to me, not for Georgia. Georgia can win the rest of their games and go. I'm saying just for the committee, it looks bad. All right, Ryan, let's send them on their way. Your final comment here.
Like we said, it doesn't really matter. It does to an extent because
Right.
it shows what they value.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
they showed right now that they feel Ohio State's a better team than Georgia. If it gets into one of those situations where they're both conference championship losers and it comes down to rankings, it could be the difference between a home and a road playoff
Or
game.
let's just say Ohio State and Georgia both win out.
It could be the difference of where they're playing in the
who
playoffs,
the one is.
and that matters too.
And that would matter.
So, and look, some people do think Ohio State's better than Georgia, and that's
Yeah,
fine.
I don't have a.
But
I get that.
We need to have, like what you were saying, there needs to be drawn out criteria, and we just either go by the criteria, or we say, hey, these are the teams that look at, and we're trying to do both, and it's not working.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure the explanation, and we got I think he's the Michigan AD up here talking about it, and I don't know. All right, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video.